So I've been doing a lot of thinking about what the next episode was going to be about, and I got to tell you right now, there's a number of different things going on in our culture, going on in our, all around us with everything in the world today. And one of the things that we talk about a lot here, and we've not a lot, but we have brought up, is the fact of when it comes to our faith and what we believe and where we stand on that side of the fence. And I think that it's important for us to share with our listeners that we don't necessarily always agree with what's going on that side of the fence either. I mean, if you look at what's going on with the modern church today, there's a lot of loopholes going on in there that are creating a lot of problems. And so I wanted to spend some time today to sit there and kind of dissect that a little bit and talk about it. I know that the Mainer's got some stats he's going to share with us later on, but, there's definitely not only just a problem that we're dealing with in society as men, but we also got a problem within the church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about any specific church. We're talking about the American church, the church as a whole, and the things that are changing, which are not supposed to change, and the things that are being accepted and told that are okay, and so on and so forth.
Well, I just think that there's not enough people sold out on the church. And I'm talking in particular men.
Hang on. Say that again. There's not enough people.
There's not enough men sold out on the church.
Sold out on the church. What do you mean?
Or their faith, for that matter.
Yeah, what do you mean, Johnny?
So when
I was listening to a couple podcasts, and a lot of people. He's a very controversial dude, and a lot of people don't like him. And some of the things come out of his mouth, you go, "Wow, dude!" But you can't always just ignore the message because you don't like the messenger.
Yeah.
And Andrew Tate was talking about the difference between being a Muslim in the world today and being a Christian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he basically said that the problem with Christianity is it's full of weak men.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Yeah.
I'm not going exact, but he said basically, because I could walk around any country in the world with a T-shirt on that says that Jesus is gay, and nobody would really do anything about it.
Yeah.
Because, but you know what? If you put a T-shirt on talking about Muhammad or Allah about like that, you wouldn't walk out alive in some countries.
True. Yeah, true. Very true.
And you know what? Because there are people that are so sold out for their faith and their belief that they're willing to do anything for it. And what's happened is that we don't have enough men in our country in America that are sold out in their faith when it comes to their beliefs in Christianity.
No.
Because we have a passive mentality.
Gotcha. So that's what you mean by sold out. Okay, so when I hear sellout, that makes me think of someone just like they're selling out on, like, we're going to allow trans people into our church today.
Well, and it's not a matter of letting them into the church.
Yeah. Well, actually, yes. So let me go back to that. Yes, they're allowed. Absolutely, would love to have them in the church, but just don't keep doing with the same thing you're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's
learn.
the whole.
That's
the whole point of Christ is that you repent, that you change your way of thinking. People
if you
repent.
meet Jesus, you're not going to. If you truly meet Christ, you can't help but want to change.
Oh
yes,
yeah, like I told a story many podcasts ago. It was on a different podcast that when I wasn't born a Christian. My family we didn't go to church and all that. But as I got older and we started to go to church, my parents started going initially, and then they're like, "Hey, we want you guys to come to church. Come twice a week or twice a month, and this and that, blah blah blah." And I kept telling my mom, I'm like, "What's your hang up? What's the hang up on this? What's going on?" So I started going twice a week, and was like, I don't know, blah blah blah. She's like, "Well," she looks at me and she goes, You're afraid that you're going to have to change. You're going to have to give up going out on the weekends. You're going to have to give up, drinking, or you're going to have to give up a bunch of what you enjoy doing if you go to church." And I was like, "Well, yeah, that was my that's what I'm worried about."
Pretty much.
I enjoy my Friday nights.
Yeah. and then she explained to me, she goes, You won't have to give up anything.
No.
You'll want to.
You want to.
You come, you meet Christ, and it's going to change the way you think.
Yeah.
So the drinking out, on the weekends ain't that big of a deal, to you at this new point in life.
Yeah.
So it's not that, like people say, "Oh, I got to get in shape before I go to the gym." No, you go to the gym to get in shape.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I mean, there are some people out there that go to the gym, they don't even sweat.
No, seriously. I don't know who they are. I mean, somehow
you got the Mainer over here. He sweats more in the podcast than he does in the gym.
Oh, geez. Not this again.
Oh, here we go. Just loving you, dude. Don't worry about it.
I know.
But I guess what I'm saying is that when we look at the modern church in America today, there aren't enough men in America that are willing to be totally sold out for their faith.
Truth.
Yeah.
Or to stand up in the midst of controversy or struggle or pushback or persecution or all these other little, trigger words that we use, when it comes to those things. And quite honestly, what's really sad is that in America, you're truly not really persecuted.
No.
I mean, you may be frowned upon or looked down on, or people might make fun of you or whatever, but at the end of the day, you still can go to church if you want to.
Yeah.
You can still worship if you want to. You can still pray if you want to. I mean, so, we don't really know what persecution truly is in America.
Yeah, unless you go to jail for bringing your Bible to school or bringing your Bible to just anywhere, we don't know persecution. We're not getting attacked, but just saying, I'm a believer.
Yeah, we're just getting verbally attacked.
Yes,
yeah,
that's true.
And I mean, quite honestly, are we that weak?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like we were worried about our feelings getting hurt, really, and then we wonder why the world is the way it is today. I mean, why we got geez, don't even get me started. But my point is that and part of it is because of the way that the setup is in our culture when it comes to church. Church for some reason has become about suiting people rather than people suiting God.
Right. Yep.
It's about, okay, how can we make this an experience for them and make them feel good about themselves rather than them looking at themselves and saying, hey, you know what, I really need to change some stuff in my life.
Yeah.
I got to get my crap together. I got to change,
Yeah.
Instead of infiltrating the world, we've allowed the world to infiltrate the church. And we see it right now. I mean, take a step back and look what's going on. We have a lot of head pastors of these mega churches out there that are just accepting everything, I mean, everything that we do that's a sin is a sin, right?
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
hates all of it. We already talk about that all the time, right?
Yeah.
But, the bottom line is it doesn't mean we have to accept the sin to accept the sinner. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
And our culture is that if to love me, to accept me, you've got to be okay with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right.
And the church has adopted that in America to where now it's like, well, it's okay to do this and it's okay to do that, and we'll accept this and we'll accept that. And yes, it's true. You should come as you are, but be expecting to change.
Yes.
If you truly have a real relationship, you're going to change.
Yeah,
A real relationship with Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you should want to grow. Like, if you're going to be going to church, you should be wanting to get into the Word on the weekdays. Like, actually go out and help other people outside of the day of, on day of Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, I've come to this conclusion since I moved to Florida that, my relationship in Maine when I became a Christian when I was 29 has changed dramatically because of just the brothers that I got to know since I moved here, the pastors, like all the people that are speaking life into me. You know what I mean? That's huge for me. That's helped me change where I am in my walk.
Well, and it's all grounded in truth, right? I mean, you think about it. I mean, you and I have had, and same thing with Freddie here and Ray. We've had some knockdown, drag out conversations, and and we keep shit real. We don't sit there and play games about it. There are things that, hey, you say I may not like, I say things you don't like, but it's all grounded in love and in truth, right? And that's really what it's about.
Yeah.
But we live in a culture today where it's not about truth, it's about how you feel.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the problem. And we're trying to make somebody feel something coming in the church rather than teaching them something when they come to church. They should walk out with it, be secure in what they know and not be caught up in what they feel. And we've kind of lost our way, I think, in that regard. And we've got, and I see it all the time, guys will come in and they'll sit there and they'll just show up because their wife wants them to be there, or they're just trying to check boxes or whatever it may be, and they're made to feel good. I mean, most churches in America believe that if you show up once a month, you tithe once a month, and you serve once a month, that you're considered an active member in a church.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, you would even be considered an active member on a softball team if you did that.
Right.
Nope.
I mean, I know a guy that he's a coach. If you did that, you'd be benched.
Well, I mean, if you want to go back and how I benched you, you could have been better.
I mean, I showed up every week at least.
No,
I'm just playing. But
you were injured. No, we'll just go.
Yeah,
with
we'll get on it. Yeah, that's what you went with. Right?
You.
Anyway, but my point is this is the mentality that we have in America.
Yeah.
And, we sit here and we talk about the band being the most crucial role in the home, and a guy shows up and there's nothing for him at the church.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking, the whole truth to it all is that instead of going there to feel good, they've got the cart in front of the horse. You go there, you learn the word, you learn what God has planned for you, then you start to feel good.
Yes.
When you give him your worries, your fears, your anxiety, you give him all this stuff, you give him power and control, then you start to feel relief. You start to feel comfortable. You start to enjoy life.
Well, everybody chalks it up to coincidence, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm going to give you a perfect example of how God works. For those people that are listening to this podcast, you go, well, that's not real. I don't believe in God, or, it's karma, or whatever. I just had a situation with my son. He was looking at doing a career change. And he met with somebody to go look at another job opportunity. He wanted to start the job on Monday, but then he wanted to give the job that he was currently doing the courtesy of a 2-week notice. And he gets a call tonight on Friday, before I came to the podcast, telling him that business is slowed down and they're not going to need any help for the next couple of weeks.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence, right?
What a coincidence.
So whatever doors that God opens, one door opens, another door closes, right?
Yeah.
And so now he can call his new opportunity to say he can start on Monday, which is what he wanted to do anyway, right? Because it's a better fit, it's a better opportunity.
Yeah.
You're not going to sit here and convince me that
Correct.
God is not involved in that.
True.
Right.
You just can't, there's just no way that you can.
Yeah.
And really and truly, the people that he's going to be surrounded by are godly men. People that have prayed for him, that love him, that care about him, and everything else. And actually, he's going to be getting a second opportunity to place he was at before.
Ah.
But the point is that those things are not coincidental.
No.
Right.
And we live in a world they're going to try to fill your head full of crap and tell you that that's what it is. But there's just no way that things line up like that.
No.
John, he's just lucky. That's
Yeah,
what
he's
happens.
lucky.
It's
Yeah, he's
all
so
about-
lucky.
It's all about coincidence. I mean, I used to believe, I was like, oh yeah, that was lucky of me, and I'm like, no, it's all. I don't believe in coincidence anymore. It's everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that even before I was a Christian, and then all of a sudden, all these things are happening perfectly in the right order. That after something like just say something you've been thinking about or praying about happens. I mean, oh well, yeah, I just got lucky, and nothing to do with me talking to
you
God.
willed it.
Nothing to
You
me.
threw it out to
Yeah,
the universe,
exactly.
and the universe took care of it for
Yeah,
you.
threw it out. Yeah, threw it out. Go ahead.
It's just like y'all know I rolled my ankle real good. And I did it the weekend before we were supposed to do this big shutdown, which is tons of walking, tons of stairs, tons of climbing over, all kinds of things. I'm like, man, this is really going to suck. I'm going to have to gimp my ass around.
Well, you're
this.
old, too. Let's
Well,
add
yeah.
that to the equation.
You don't heal as fast as you used to.
Yeah.
I
But-
can smell you.
But that the next day, I get a call from him going, hey, we just pushed it back 4 days. So don't come in on Monday for the shutdown. It ain't happening until Thursday.
More
Man.
healing time.
What a lucky guy I am.
Yeah, you're lucky.
So lucky. You should go
so
play
lucky,
the lottery, Ray.
But this is what this is the world that we live
Yeah,
in, right?
it is.
Yeah.
This is the environment that we're in, and you're just going to tell me that these people are just lucky?
Here's another thing I want to bring up. Nowadays in today's society, you're either for me or you're against me. Is the status quo of it all. Me, you, John, everybody in this podcast, we are not Bible thumpers. We're not running around trying to beat you over the head. We're not going to beat you over the head with verses and all this stuff, but we are going to let you know where we stand.
Oh yeah.
Well, we recognize where it all comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
you
know-
call us weak. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all
Oh,
are
yeah.
weak. Y'all
Y'all
can't
weak.
handle,
Yeah.
Come
You're
on.
God fearing. You're scared of someone imaginary spaghetti monster. You've heard that lovely one.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I'd be going like I think I actually brought it up. We were at a school meeting just yesterday for my kids, and I literally just looked at the principal in the eye and I said, I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for my faith, I don't know where I'd be right now because of just having to deal with because she said you guys are so patient with them and because they're dealing with dealing with some stuff right now. And they're hard time getting into school, worried about bullies, blah, blah, blah.
Adjusting.
Adjusting, exactly. Yeah, it's a brand new school for them, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So, and I'm like, I don't know where I'd be without my faith. Because honest, like, and my wife looked at me and she goes, yeah, we'd probably be pretty crazy right now.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it like this, Freddie. How many times have I called you up just out of the blue?
Yeah.
And and just said, "Hey, what's going on, man?"
Many times, Johnny. Many times.
And how many times you told me, I'll ask you how you doing. You go, "Oh, I'm doing great." What do I say to you?
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
I said, "There's a I've been told to give you a call. There's a reason for it." But that's those things are not coincidences. And
They are not.
How many times have you been in a situation, Mike, where you have felt like your back's against the wall, and then we have a conversation,
Oh, yeah.
and then you know what, you feel like you're not alone anymore, and you've got somebody in your
Exactly.
corner that
Oh,
loves you, that cares about. That's what it really truly looks like. But
Yeah.
the problem that we face is that we have a false narrative going on in these churches in America, man. I mean, we've got some pastors that don't even want to mention the Bible. We've got some pastors that are talking about trans is in the name. We got some pastors that are talking about accepting certain lifestyles and things of that nature, which is that's contradictory to what the Word says. And you know what? It's a scary situation when we. And this is what pisses me off, because people that are on the outside looking in, that look at Christians, they go, well, man, they can't even figure out what they're about.
There's like 500 different versions.
Yeah,
of
you
it.
say this, but then you do this, and then this isn't okay now, but it is okay now, and it's contra. In the Word it tells us God is the same God yesterday as He is today, as He will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we keep flip flopping and changing things around,
True.
and we send the wrong message to people out there that are kind of curious or wondering or looking into.
Yeah.
But Mike, you got some alarming statistics that you've pulled up that we want to talk about, that we see just people that call themselves Christians.
Yeah. I mean, like almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
wait a second.
Yeah, that's a ticket. Yeah.
I was like, what I just talking?
And here's Mike with the stats.
I didn't know I'd get my own intro.
Oh, way to go. Made a mic.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna cover something because I was suspended last 2 weeks.
Yes.
I
Suspended ain't the
myself.
word.
I suspended myself. We'll go into it later, but I did some things that I'm not proud of for my family.
I can smell you.
It involves
I
going
love
to
how he
Disney.
blames his family for everything.
It involves Disney and family visiting. And,
It's called woke, go broke.
yeah. So, hey, I'm back, everybody.
He's back to the red state.
Back,
He's back to taking the red pill again.
So I suspended myself for 2
You were
weeks.
swallowing blue pills? Is that what he's talking about? And it wasn't Viagra?
All right. So about
Move on.
about 60% of current Christians believe that multiple religions can get into heaven.
Okay, so you're a Christian. That in the Bible it says that the only way through the Father is through the Son, which is through Christ. Okay, that's what the Bible says. That's what we believe. That's what Christ followers believe. But now you're telling people, and you're walking in the belief that there's 65% of you saying that there's multiple different ways to get to heaven, which is contradictory to what the Word says.
Right.
And then we wonder why people look at us like we're a joke.
And multiple, it's almost 50% of Christians believe you don't have to believe in God to go to heaven.
Wow. So you're a Christian, a Christ
You just get there from
follower,
your good works, John.
but you don't have to believe in God. You just go to heaven anyway because you're a good person.
Whether we wanted it or
You just gotta
not.
go to church. If you go to church, you go. I mean, if you get baptized, you go to heaven. And that's how it works.
So if you don't believe in God, which is the whole point of being in heaven is to be with God. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the stats.
And these are real statistics.
These are real stats. I mean, it's ridiculous. I was looking at these and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I can understand why people are like, yeah, he's just a Christian. I mean, he's a back talker. He doesn't like he's a hypocrite. The definition of a hypocrite, like that, when Jesus says, "Don't judge others," pretty much people go to that one and say, "Well, you can't judge me. I'm trans. I don't know. I think you're just confused, but that's just me. But you can't judge me. No, the whole point is yes, if I went and dressed up in girls' clothes and then went to church and then pretended I never did that, yes, that's the definition of pull the log out of your own eye. And then take the splinter out of your pull a log out of your own eye before you look at your friend's splinter in his.
Yeah, the dust.
So, yeah.
But but here's the other thing too is it's like the thing that we got to remember is it's not about judging. It's about accepting.
Yeah.
I don't have to accept what you do to love you.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly.
This is where it gets convoluted. Like, okay, you're trans, you're gay, you're struggling with alcoholism, you're a drug addict, you have problems with lust and porn. I mean, sin is sin, right? I don't have to like what you're doing to love you.
Right.
I mean, how many people that are listening to this podcast right now that are fathers out there that have kids that you don't like the shit that they're doing?
Right.
Does that stop you from loving your child?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You still love them. You don't have to agree with what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's where the difference is. It's like, look, we can still love you, but we don't have to say that what you're doing is okay. And we don't have to accept that and come alongside you and be like, pushing that. It's like this whole racism thing now. It's not enough in this country today to not be racist. But if you're not anti-racist, you're racist. Well, what does that even mean? It's like,
right.
If you're not willing to take a hill and go crazy about anti-racism, then that means you're a racist. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing?
What's the definition of racism nowadays? I don't even know. I don't know what it is.
It's a good question.
Yeah, well, I was actually talking with my brother about that earlier today, and I told him, I said, these people are throwing around these words so much, so often, they lose power. Mm-hmm. So you call everybody a racist.
Yeah.
So nowadays it's like, oh, you're a racist. Half the people go, whatever, because they've diluted what it actually is.
But what's the church's answer to that? And this is where the problem comes in. It's not an organic. It's not organic when it comes to multicultural anymore. It's forced. So the answer is put multicultural people on the stage, or let somebody that's of a different ethnicity get up there to show that you're diverse, right? We hear this word, being diverse in the church. Well, it's got to be organic. You put the right person to do the right job, and if it's somebody, it shouldn't matter what their ethnicity is at all. They love Jesus, or they want to serve, or they want to do whatever. You just put them in that position and allow them to do what they're going to do.
Right.
But you don't put somebody in a spot because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity, because that is a definition of racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got churches in America today that do this all day long.
It's all about the identity, John.
And it causes division, resentment, and frustration within the body.
Yeah.
Because now you're saying, I personally have experienced it. I've had somebody come to me and tell me, because I led a men's group, that they wanted to put somebody of color up on the stage and wanted me to split time with somebody based on ethnicity. And I was like, look, if you want it that bad, you can have it. It doesn't mean that much to me. You know what I mean?
That's when you ask questions. Well, how long has he been, in the church?
And the person that they wanted to put up there hadn't even gone to the men's group.
That's what I was just getting at.
So, I mean, like, you're like, I've been doing this for 10 years. But because you want to put out an image or a certain perception, I should say, out there, you're willing to do this. And the problem is it's seeped into the church, man.
100%.
And the church is doing the same thing the world's doing. And we're not supposed to be of the world. We're supposed to be separate of the world and different than the world. And yet we're not doing that. We're coming alongside. And we're doing the same exact thing.
Worldly
doing
things.
The same worldly crap.
Yeah. And like knowing you, if they'd have brought up a guy who has been leading a men's group for 10 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and said, "Hey, John, we'd really like this guy to get some time in. Why don't you sit down with him and talk to him and explain to him where everything's going?" You know what? You'd have been like, "Hell yeah, brother, come on, let me. I don't want to be up here all day every day. Come on up here, let me. Let's do this."
I had a dude one time. We were in men's group. He was a black dude. And he came to me and he said, "Man, I look around. I don't see a lot of people that look like me." And I said, "You know what? You're right. So what are you going to do to help me with that?"
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me to do that?
Right.
Look at you. If you're wanting people of your ethnicity, your group, or whatever, see more people like that, then you step up and you reach out to your friends and your neighbors and people that you interact with, and try and bring them in here, because we'd love to have them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, heaven's gonna be everybody in heaven, so it doesn't matter what color, what race you are, what gender you are. We're all.
But the
gonna be
church is doing a disservice when they do this forced,
there.
diversity.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other stats.
The thing about that, I want to make it nice and clear, is their heart is not in it. That's the thing. Is their heart's not in it. They're doing it for purely visual, a purely visual effect.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Is God is most concerned about your heart. So you can do a dog and pony all day, every day, and it ain't gonna get you nowhere.
Nope.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to cause dissension, frustration, and resentment. That's what's going to happen. You had one of the other stats that I thought was pretty fascinating is how many
About
Christians don't even believe in the devil.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
This is, I mean.
All right.
And then we wonder why people do what they do.
A biblical person.
Yeah.
A person that calls himself a Christian, or him or herself a Christian.
No, but the devil, a biblical person.
Yeah. that we know is
Yeah.
Jesus refers to him.
Well, I don't know if we have it as Christians, but we have 45% of all Americans believe he exists, believe that Satan exists.
So that means 55%.
55 don't believe that he's
don't.
even that it's just it's just bad people out there.
Well,
there's no demons. There's no.
He's a
out there.
symbol.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. So I mean, it's kind of hard to try to get people to live a certain lifestyle if you don't even believe in the consequences that come from not living that lifestyle. And you know, we also, the church has adopted this mentality of, you know, well, God loves you, God's crazy about you, God, you know, is forgiving, loving, and merciful. But you know what? I got news for you. You know, every father rebukes and corrects his child.
Yep.
Yep.
That disciplines his child.
Yep.
If you don't rebuke your kid, you don't love them.
Yeah. So
Literally
I mean,
biblical in Proverbs.
you doing something wrong, you going to get corrected.
Yeah.
So how many people didn't believe in God?
People didn't believe in God. Hold on.
Because I was just thinking, I'm like, well, if they don't believe in the devil, if they don't believe in God, why should they believe in the devil?
Well, you don't need to. Yeah, there's Christians that don't.
Yeah.
What's it?
About 70, according to this stat, 90%, and I checked it, it's about 80, 85 now with COVID, but 85% believe that God exists. The question is, they don't believe Jesus exists. Like, they believe a God exists.
But not the God of the Bible.
Not the God of the Bible.
So they believe in a creator
Yes.
or
I got
some kind of being.
Yeah.
Probably a customized being that they've created for themselves to make themselves feel better about whatever they're doing.
You know,
Here's a quick Christian one that I found. About 45% disagree that every Christian has an obligation to join a local church. They think that they can they don't have to join a church. And I'm like, that was interesting. That like Christians don't believe that they have to be part of a church. I mean, the whole point is to have a church body, right? To grow, to be able to feed off each other.
well, to surround
Where
yourself
two
with
or
other
more are
Christians.
gathered. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Two or more are gathered, you know, but there's got to be fellow believers.
Well, forget about all that. It's about worship.
Yeah.
Your whole purpose of going to church, and I just put it out there for everybody, is to worship God.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why we go to church, to worship.
Yeah.
It ain't about you. It ain't about your kids. It ain't about your wife. It's about God. It's about worshiping God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when we go into these Bible studies or these groups or whatever, that's about us getting information, learning,
Right.
growing, and all that. And we get it twisted. Because you know why? Because a lot of the churches today make it about you.
Yeah.
And right now we got a bunch of guys out there that, you know, they walk into a church and they're like, there's nothing here for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of churches out there right now, guys, don't even have men's ministries. They don't have men, you know, some of them don't even have men's groups.
Scary.
Right.
I know this for a fact because when I was leading the men's ministry at our church for those number of years, we would reach out to other churches to get, you know, kind of best practices or ideas. And the majority of the churches that we reached out to didn't even have men's ministries. Some of them didn't even have men's groups. So you're sitting there talking about it's the man, and then the man walks in and there's nothing for him.
See, only if they knew this stat, though, John. But if a mother comes to Christ, about 20% they'll bring their family into the church. But if a father comes to Christ, then almost 93% will bring their family into the church. So they will get they'll get everybody to come into the church if they focus on the father, because the father's heart. Like I think it's best. I've been hearing a lot of podcasts and a lot of sermons and stuff about, you know, it's all about the father. And if you have a father at the house that loves the father, you have a better chance of less drug use.
Well, if it's good enough for dad, it's good enough for you, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And you can build your legacy.
Well, it's
You
just-
can build your family
It's
legacy.
just like, I know we've talked about this podcast before. You know, my kids are they're in their 20s now. They make their own decisions, and they're not consistent about going to church like they used to be. But you know, my wife and I were talking the other day, and we're like, you know, for 20 years of their lives, they went to church every Sunday with their mother and their father, and you know, the situation with my son about the jobs thing, he comes walking in the living room and he's pointing up in the air, and he goes, and I look at him and go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "The good old JC looking out for me." He's looking out for me. And I'm thinking,
planted.
here's a guy that, you know, that I'm frustrated with because he hasn't been going to church like he should, in my opinion, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, he has to have his own thing, his own walk,
Different
right?
walk.
Yep.
His own relationship. But he knows, even in the midst of his struggle and his distance and his pullback and all that, he knows that all good things come from God.
Yep.
He knows that when things work out right in his life, he knows who's orchestrating that in his life. And the first thing he says to me is Jesus is looking out for me. Well, how does he know that?
Yep.
It's been embedded in him. It's
been embedded in him.
there. And, you know, you hope that seed gets watered and, you know, it flourishes. But The bottom line is when we're sitting here tonight, it's not about bashing churches. That's not what we're trying to do. But we want to be honest and be transparent and be real. There's a lot of churches in our country right now that got some really strange theology that's going on out there. And what I would just say to you, anybody that's listening to this podcast, that's even remotely interested in what it is, to be a Christian or a real Christian, is first of all, you need to read the Bible. You need to know and understand the Word. That way, no matter what anybody else says to you, you already know the truth. Problem is, and this is for the dudes out there, most of you are too dang lazy to pick it up and read it. You'll read magazines, you'll read all kinds of reels, you'll read all kinds of, articles on sports, music, cars, hunting, fishing, whatever it may be. You'll sit there and just flip through hours and hours of reading, and then you'll sit there and talk about how you can't read the Bible. Well, it's all about what's important to you, right? Problem is that what we've found out in this country today is that the church is becoming infiltrated by the world rather than infiltrating the world. So basically what's happening is people looking around going, well, what's the difference? I can do this and do that without having to do this, and it costs me nothing. There's no sacrifice. There's no giving up anything. I can continue to live my life the way I want. Just say I believe in God and I'm good. I got news for you. You've been lied to. Somebody lied to you. God's not looking for somebody that's perfect. He's just looking for somebody who's willing to be changed. And if you're in a situation where, you know within your heart of hearts, I always say this a lot of times, you ain't got to tell somebody that's messed up. They already know. And if you're in a place right now where you think, well, man, I need to really get myself together, figure things out, and you're willing to look at yourself for real for the first time, I promise you, you are never going to regret making a decision to follow Christ. It's just not, this world has nothing to offer. A lot of times we'll come inside this room, we'll sit here and we'll talk. I had a conversation with our producer tonight before everybody got here, and I'm thinking, what's the point? What are we here to do? Why are we on this earth? What is the purpose of our lives? We get up, it seems pretty mundane. I know you listen to this, you're like, man, I get up, I go to work, I come home, I go shopping or whatever. I consume, I spend, I consume, and it just goes on and on and on, day after day. But you know what? The only one that's ever going to give you true purpose and true meaning in your life is God. It's that simple. You're going to take my word for it. Just check it out and try to prove me wrong. Tonight's not a podcast to try to get you to become a Christian. That's not what this is about. Tonight is a podcast talking about, we know we got some work to do. And we understand that there's probably a good reason why a lot of guys out there look at the church and you guys laugh at us. And you think, man, why would I want that? But I'm just going to tell you that if you would take the time to actually look deep into it and invest into it the way you should, you're going to see that there's nothing better or greater you can do for your life. Because that, my friends, well, that's where the rubber meets the road.